I'm excited. I'm excited here on the Great Scott Show to welcome our next guest, Super Bowl champion, Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro, a member of the Washington Redskins Ring of Fame, an all-time great for the Ragin Cajuns, who during his time at Louisiana, then USL, became the first player in NCAA history to pass for more than 5,000 yards and rush for more than 3,000. Brian Mitchell is our guest right now. Brian, how are you? Thanks for coming on the show.
I'm doing well. How you doing, man?
I'm good. So, I want to go back to your childhood briefly, if you don't mind. I know, grew up around Leesville, born in Fort Polk. What was your early life like in Louisiana, and when did football become a big part of it?
As long as I can remember, football was a part of me, a part of my life. I got about 4 brothers and 2 sisters, and I would watch my brothers at a very young age on the side. We had like a 2-acre lot on the side of our house playing with my older cousins, and when I got old enough, I was right out there with them. And when I got a chance to play in Little League and high school, I felt the fact that I played with my older brothers and older cousins, it gave me kind of an advantage. I was real fast because I was smaller than them. I didn't want them to catch me. And I was able to take a little bit of the punishment because I've been playing with guys that were older and bigger all my life.
So that obviously molded you at an early age in terms of your style of play. What was your recruitment like to USL, and ultimately, why did you end up with the Ragin Cajuns?
Well, I had a lot of people that were recruiting me and my dad. My dad had open heart surgery in the 9th grade, and my whole deal was, if I ever go to college, I wanted to stay somewhere close. And then when I visited a lot of different schools, they did a lot of recruiting me as a football player. But when I went to USL at the time, they made me feel better as a student athlete. I think the first 2 days I was there, I didn't see anything in the athletic department. Everything was about education. I wanted to major in chemical engineering, and I found out that they had one of the top engineering schools there. So that was part of the reason I went there, because they showed me more love as a student than any other school did. And also, my dad, I wanted to be close because that is my hero. And then Coach Stokely told me I have a chance to play my freshman year, and anybody that's a competitor will take that and run with it.
Yeah, you played a lot from your freshman year all the way through. What's when I say, hey, look, your time with the Ragin Cajuns, what's the first memory that comes to your mind?
I would just say that brotherhood. One thing I had some friendships that were formed there that would never ever be broken. It was like in that town. They welcomed me in as if I was their own, and it was no matter what race, where it was, everybody in that town loved me, and I loved them back. And that's the main thing for some people. When you leave your area and you go to a college, you want to feel comfortable, and never did I feel uncomfortable in Lafayette.
What do you remember about the game against Colorado State when you rushed for over 200, you passed for over 200?
That was a fun game. They came in, they were beating us 20-something to 7, and Coach Stokely asked me, he said, what do you want to do? I said, Coach, they're bigger than us. We got to do some misdirection. And we had put this play in that I remember it was called 60 quarterback at 2 and things like that, where I would fake the read, like the dive to a right side and then come back with a trap as a quarterback on the other side. And in the second half, I think I had over 200 yards rushing against them. And I remember their cheerleaders doing push-ups every time they scored. So I decided to do push-ups every time we scored against them in the second half. And it was a lot of fun, to have that type of game against a school, Colorado State, who came in and, they had like national prominence, and we didn't at the time. But to run up and down the field on them and make people start to understand us, I think that was one of those games I'm going to remember the rest of my life.
Brian Mitchell, our guest. You mentioned going to Coach Stokely. He asked you, what do you think? How much freedom did he give you within the context of the offense?
He gave me a lot. If I saw something, if it was a play I stuck with, a little play with, anytime I would look on the backside, and if we had a one-on-one with the receiver and the cornerback was playing off and kind of to his outside, I could just all of a sudden give him a signal and just throw that little slant route to him. And if there were plays where I can see a gap, I can act like I'm going to drop back and just run that little quarterback draw through there. So he allowed me to do those things because Coach Jones, who was the receivers coach on the squad, was my high school football coach. And Coach Jones, ever since I was in the 10th grade, I called all my plays from the line of scrimmage. You know, that's why I see, like, quarterbacks in the pros today that's not doing it. I'm kind of baffled because I called all of 10th, 11th, 12th grade. We called play. We went from the sideline to the football. And if you didn't know what was going on, we were going to call plays on you all day.
Brian Mitchell, our guest. Some more from your playing days, Brian, if you don't mind. I spoke to a guy, I guess, whose bottom you got to know well because he snapped you the football, Troy Winger. I was talking to him, you know, about memories he had of your playing days, and you mentioned doing all those push-ups against Colorado State. My guess is you didn't get tired because Troy said he can remember you power cleaning 8 plates, power cleaning 405 pounds, and, you know, he, the center, couldn't get over 375. So the stories of you being a gym rat, how accurate are those?
They're very accurate. You know, I was never a guy who shied away from working out. And I was talking with Leonard Isaacs when I was there over the weekend. And he said, man, I knew you were going to be something when you showed up at 5:30 and you worked out with the offensive lineman. And for me, I never worked out with people my size or people in my position because I just felt that they weren't going to push me and I couldn't really push them. But if you're stronger if you're the same size. But if I work out with the offensive linemen, they didn't want me to outlift them. So they're going to always try to go a little bit heavier. And then if I can get close to their weight, it's making me better and it's pushing them. So I felt that it was a twofold type of thing. And I can just remember being there with Coach Rowe early on, and I read this article about Barry Sanders. And Barry Sanders had, I think he bench pressed about 405. He power cleaned 3-something, and he had squatted like 6-something. And I wanted to try to get to every one of those things that he had. And I think I got to 2 of them. I missed one of them. But, you know, my whole thing was, and we had a T-shirt you can get if you reach a certain weight criteria. I would say that I was the only quarterback probably ever in the history of that school to probably get there.
Troy did say he squatted more than you. True or false?
I would say if Troy didn't do it with 600 pounds, he didn't squat more than me.
All right. I got some more memories real quick from your center. He recalled a time that you might have moderately grabbed his face mask and threatened to kick his butt because you guys were playing Bama run and play action away from Derek Thomas, but it came down basically to Troy having to make that block. And Derek Thomas, you know, he's one of the best ever. So at some point, you know, he got to you, and I think the 5th time he hit you, you basically threatened to kick his butt, and Troy just said, I'm sorry, Brian, it's going to happen again.
That's a true story.
Good stuff.
You know, listen, on the football field, I tell people off the field, I'm my mother, okay? My mother was the person with the biggest heart. She was always out there a giver. She wanted to help people out. And my dad was that way as well. But on the football field, I'm definitely my dad. I'm a kick-ass type of guy. You know, I don't like anybody on the field that's not doing what they're supposed to be doing. I can't stand the other team. If you're my family member, you're on the other team. For those 3 hours, I hate you. If you're my player and you're not doing your job, I'm going to dislike you as well. And I'm going to push you, and I'm going to challenge you because I wanted people to do the same thing to me. You know, if I'm making a mistake, let me know. Don't just sit there and not say something because if you're making a mistake, I'm definitely going to let you know. And I didn't care what size they were, you know, or whatever. I'm going to say what I have to say because I'm willing to do everything I can to help us win, and I need you to be doing the same thing.
So a few more. Your block against Rice, if you don't know which one I'm referring to. So you guys you ran a reverse to McCullum, and you basically decleated this like all-conference nose guard from Rice, and as many recall, it was like the best block they'd ever seen thrown by a quarterback.
It was actually P.D. Broussard. He went to the left, and P.D., you know, had a tendency sometimes he wanted to reverse field. He was so fast, so he thought he could outrun everybody. And I think it was the first time, I guess P.D. thought he got the standing ovation. He had about a 1 or 2 yard gain, but the standing ovation was that block. You know, he went to the left side, and he spent around, and I'm standing there, and I'm looking, and I'm like, okay. And I can see the nose guard looking at PD. He's coming. And I'm like, I don't get up early in the morning and power clean and squat and bench press and do all the things I do not to take this hit. And I hit him. And I can remember some of the coaches saying, next time, just get out the way. I'm like, hell no. They hit me all the time. I got an opportunity to get me one of those signature hits, and I took it. And the first thing hit hit the ground with the back of his head. No, that was a good play. We ended up killing them that game. And then I remember we went to play them the next year, and, you know, their fans were talking about their SAT scores and all that type of thing. They never talked about the football game. We beat them down there as well.
Well, one team you came close to beating but didn't, I know, is probably stuck with you guys, is the 24-17 loss to Alabama. But you did shake an All-American John Mangum. I mean, he had a beeline for you at one point. You just shook him out of his cleats, if I remember right.
Well, I always felt it was me one-on-one with anybody. I had that advantage on that. I know where I'm going. They don't know where I was going. And Mangum, you know, he was a very good one. And I love when we played against schools like Alabama and Oklahoma State and all that, because it lets you know where you are. You know, let's be truthful with it. There are different levels of college football. You know, some teams have a bunch of 5 stars and 4 stars, and some schools have maybe 1 or 2 4 or 5 stars, and then they have a lot of 2 and 3 stars. But I think everybody, if you work at it, you believe in yourself, and you have the proper heart, you can succeed. You can have success against them. And one thing about me, you know, I didn't lack confidence, and I don't lack it today. So when I went against those teams, my whole goal, I wanted to make sure when we got through this game, they're going to remember me. And that's the same attitude I took when I got here, because I remember Ricky Irvins, who was a Rose Bowl MVP, went to USC, and it was my second year, and he was like, "Where did you go to school?" I said, "I went to USL, Southwestern Louisiana." He said, "What's that?" I said, "When you get on the football field, you'll find out." He said, "What does that mean?" I say, "Nobody out there is going to outwork me." And still today, Ricky says, when I was on the field, he said I was the hardest dude out there, and in the weight room, I wanted to be the strongest, because I just believe that it doesn't make a difference where you go. It's what you do. And I tried to do the most I can to make sure I left pride in Plaquemine and also Lafayette.
Brian Mitchell, our guest, ESPN1420n.com. It's the Great Scott Show. Of course, I remember you playing at USL, as many do. I don't remember you returning punts and kicks. Like, at what point did you know at the NFL level, where you did a lot of stuff, but, you know, Brian, that's really what you're best known for. You had some good days at running back. Of course, you got to play a little quarterback your rookie year, which we can talk about briefly. But that was your calling card, right? You have 22 NFL records, 21 of them are, you know, in terms of the return game and special teams. So was your mindset coming out of college, I'm gonna play quarterback, I'm gonna play running back, I'm gonna return? Like, where did you see yourself going in the NFL when you were taken in the 5th round by Washington?
Well, I was drafted, they said, Brian Mitchell, athlete. So when they did that, I felt I had to be prepared to do anything. And if you remember, when I was in high school, I was a quarterback, but I ran the ball a lot. I played defensive back also. When I got to USL, I would run it, I would throw it, and I would always ask Coach Stokely when Richard Pennell was quarterbacking early in my career to let me catch punts, let me catch kickoffs, let me do something else. Because one thing I did, I hated being on the sideline. But when I got drafted to the NFL, you know, for me is they drafted me so they see something in me. And I'm getting paid to play this game now. This childhood game that I love so much, now I can get paid for it. I didn't care where I played, because my dream was always to play in the NFL. The Saskatchewan Roughriders had my rights. They had offered me a 3-year guaranteed contract coming out of college. But I didn't care about that. I wanted to play in the NFL. And I got my mindset was, I got drafted on the first day, I'm going to go and see what I can do. And once I got to the Redskins, they told me, you know, the only way you're going to make this team is being a kick return or punt return guy. And the days of being a quarterback left my mind. I began to watch a lot of film on Mike Nelms, who's one of the greats here at the Washington Redskins. And then Joe Howard Johnson was on the squad with me and began to teach me some things. And the first time I touched it as a kick returner, I returned a touchdown. So having success early, you know, it kind of motivated me and gave me that mindset to go out there and try to figure everything out. And then Mel Gray became a good friend of mine. And I told Mel, I said, hey, let's make this a glamour position. Let's make people want to do this and make NFL people have to look for top athletes to do it. And, hey, the rest is history.
So you mentioned it, your first preseason game, you take it to the house. Well, there was a Monday night game your rookie year. I believe it's referred to as the body bag game. You guys are playing the Eagles. Starting quarterback knocked out the game. Backup quarterback knocked out the game. So you had kind of put playing quarterback out of your mind, but there you are on national TV, Monday Night Football, and you're having to play quarterback. And you know what? The stat line, while it isn't thick, it's pretty impressive, Brian. I mean, 3 of 6, 40 yards and a score. What do you remember about that game?
Well, I remember that week they had put in a smaller version of the offense for me because I think Mark Rippon was already hurt. And then you had Jeff Rutledge and Stan Humphries, who played at Northeast Louisiana, who were our quarterbacks at the moment. So they made me the emergency quarterback, which I was every week. And they said, well, you have to be careful, be ready, because Stan had a knee injury or something like that. So Stan got hurt, and then Jeff got hurt, and then both of the running backs got hurt. So I'm on notice because I'm now backing up the running backs. The punt returners, 2 punt returners, Joe Howard Johnson and Walter Stanley, both got knocked out that game. So the 6 people that I backed up, all 6 got hurt. So I was the return man. I was supposed to be a running back, but we had our fullback come in and play some of that. And then the quarterback went down. I had to go in and play quarterback. But, it was one of those games where you feel sorry that you guys got hurt. But then you start thinking, it's Monday Night Football. My people get to see me play quarterback in the NFL, because I always told people I will play quarterback at one point in the NFL, and lo and behold, Monday Night Football, my rookie season, it happened for me.
There you have it, Brian Mitchell, our guest. 10 years with one team, Brian, 14 years in the league total. Aside from winning the Super Bowl, what's your favorite on-field NFL memory? Because my guess is, if I just said favorite memory, you talk about the brotherhood like you did with college. But in terms of on the field, other than the Super Bowl, what comes to mind?
Other than the Super Bowl, I would have to say that first return, that first return in preseason, because I went into that game thinking if I have success and this works out a little bit, I'm going to be gung-ho. If I don't, I'm calling Saskatchewan. I'm going to Canada. So having that success, that first play, basically set the tone for the next 14 years that, diving into that, if people don't know my whole story about that rookie season. In April, grandmother and grandfather passed away. It was my mom's dad and my dad's mom. Then in training camp, my brother was killed. So I had to go home for that wake, and my mom told me to go back and play in the game for the funeral because my brother had said he would want me to be there because he had lived for one day before he died. Then in October, my favorite aunt and my mom's mom passed away a day apart, and then my dad had a heart attack in December and passed away that following February. So it was a trying time for me, and having that success, it kind of, took my mind off of a lot of negative things and bad things that were going on, and just made me say, look, everybody that passed away were people that pushed me, kind of getting kind of emotional here.
Sure, I understand.
There were people that pushed me and always supported me, so I wanted to make them happy.
And Brian, yeah, I know that for you that all of those trials and tribulations, having that in the back of your mind, and then having the success on the field, football was an escape for you in a lot of ways, but also I can imagine year one of 14 in the league, when you go through what you went through, the rest of your career, a lot of guys don't play that long. It must look, it's obviously difficult. It's a select group of athletes to get to play in the league, but everything you faced the rest of your career, my guess is it was easy compared to what you had to go through early on.
Oh, yeah, it was. And, I always tell people, no matter what you're going through, somebody else might be going through something more, because I had a buddy who he had an argument or something with his girlfriend or something. I'm leaving. I said, man, hell no, you can't leave. And I broke down and told him what I was dealing with. And you can fight through it. If you have belief in yourself and you want to, like I always tell people, if you don't want to do it for yourself, do it for somebody else. Because for some reason we don't bust our butts. We don't do everything we can to do it for us. But we'll run through a wall to please somebody else. And you make sure that person that you pick is the right person. Because my dad and my brother and my aunt, my grandmothers, and I don't think it was many people that were more important than them. And it ignited me. It made me become, the man I am today and who I was then.
Look, family tragedy, you can kind of go down two ways, Brian. You can just leave the league, fall apart, or you can go the other direction. And no question, you went the other direction. I mean, Morton Anderson, he got into the last Hall of Fame class, and I think special teams now is beginning to get much deserved credit, a lot more credit with the mainstream fans and media. I know you were nominated for the Hall of Fame induction last year. 22 NFL records. I mean, do you think the window's been opened a little bit for you to potentially have a bust in Canton one day?
I think it has been, and when I hear people like Peter King starting to talk about it, Peter King has a lot of clout when it comes to that type of thing. And when I hear that, I think it's a possibility one day, and I hope it does, because for me, it would be a celebration not for what Brian Mitchell did in the NFL, but for a celebration for what everybody did for me and the people that helped me along the way. And I always tell people, I say I'm a puzzle, and I go through life, and no matter who I meet, you're trying to get a piece of that puzzle. Sometimes that piece can be a part that fits right now. Other times you have to wait till later for that piece to fit. Some pieces may never fit, but guess what? You meet people, you learn from them. Some people help you, some people don't. And if I was to ever make it to the Hall of Fame, it'll be hundreds of thousands of people that I met that gave me something that pushed me a little farther. Someone that told me what I couldn't do, that made me stay in the gym a little longer or run a little bit more, those type of things. So it would be a combination of things. And believe me, it would be a party in Lafayette. I guarantee you that.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. Brian Mitchell, our guest, ESPN1420.com. And we get tweets to the station account. We get calls sometimes about the Hall of Fame and your name being brought up. And I just said, look, with Morton Anderson getting in last year, I think it's a sign that some things are starting to shift a little bit, and the appreciation of special teams, the all-time greats in special teams, is starting to come to the forefront a little more. In your 14 years of playing, Brian, did you think sports broadcasting, sports radio was something that you would have an interest in when you were done playing?
Well, to be honest with you, during our Super Bowl season is when I got involved with sports broadcasting, because I forgot who it was I heard on TV making a comment. I got kind of pissed off and started looking for an avenue to be able to respond to people like that. And that year I went to this party for WHUR, Howard University Radio, and they were looking for someone to do a 5 to 10 minute sports talk on Monday and Friday. And I said, well, I'll do it. And I started doing it then, and I did it the rest of my career. And when I retired, I started doing radio in 94, 95. And when I retired from it, the guy who I worked with when I started with WTM, was the sports radio station back in 92, 93, he had become the program manager at the radio station, and they had changed over, and he offered me a job. I talked to him. He said, on a Friday we met up. He said, I want you to do this radio show. And I said, when? And he said, I want you to start on Monday. It was Friday, and I started Monday and been doing it ever since.
So Brian Mitchell, host, analyst on Comcast Sportsnet and ESPN 980. You can follow him on Twitter at BMitchLiveCSN. And before we talk about FanCom, which is awesome, how did you end up in Sharknado 3? I mean, you got a role in that.
Well, they were using our the guy was from Philadelphia. He's an Eagles fan. And they were going to be using our control room in the TV station to act like that's the control tower in the movie.
Right.
And when they found out that I played, and then also Ryan Kerrigan with the Purdue, they wanted to have us in the thing, and they offered it to us. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. It's no problem for me. Because, it's a silly little movie. It's funny, but, I like doing different things. And I felt, hey, you never know. Terry Crews, who was a teammate of mine, went to California to draw pictures of people. And now you look at him, he's one of the biggest stars out there in Hollywood. So you never know when somebody can find you.
Yeah, and I'll also add to that for your friend Terry. I read his book. That's a good man. Me being a father,
good dude.
Reading about, and him being so open with some of his struggles and how he becomes a better dad in marriage. I have a whole lot of respect for him and recommend anybody listening to check out his book. All right, Brian, tell us about FanCom, because I know, you were in town last Saturday. You were on our pregame show for a little while. And for folks that didn't get to hear it, what is FanCom and how are you involved in it?
Well, FanCom is very similar to Twitter and Facebook and all that, but it's a social media platform where, a lot of guys complain, a lot of guys in the NFL and other sports, that they don't want to get involved with social media because they have to deal with so many for a short of term, asses, to be honest with you, on social media, because social media give a lot of people, we call Twitter muscles. You know, they say a lot, and they like to bully, and they like to antagonize people. So, and athletes have to be careful of that. So on FanCom, this guy did this thing in Canada. Ciolis is his last name. They did it with the financial sector, where people were on doing a deal where anybody that bullied or cursed and did things that you're instantly blocked off of it. So there are people that don't go on social media because of the language and the way that things go on it. So now FanCom is where players are going to be involved, and players also get compensated from this. You know, like on Twitter, I can be on Twitter with 1 million followers all day, and I probably won't get compensated for it. But the players that are going to be doing things, and they get players from all 32 different teams, they try to start with 3 and maybe more than 3, but you're going to be the expert on that team that you play for, that team in your area, and you get to talk back and forth with your fans. And the players and the fans are going to dictate how the knowledge goes. And some of them may even be doing, like if you look at Facebook Live, so it'd be like many TV shows or many advertising things going on. So it's going to be good, where you're going to have clean conversation with fans and players, and the players will get something in the end instead of just Facebook and Twitter becoming huge. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's a great cause, and trolls is the common used word, but I like how you put it, Brian. I mean, look, there are asses on social media, so we can call it like we see it and what it is. Lastly, Brian, I know you're still very active with Ragin Cajun Gridiron alumni. I know you were in town last weekend. How much do you keep up with the current team, and what are your thoughts on Coach Hud and the squad?
Well, I've loved Coach Hud the whole time, and I think last year when all the stuff came down, and things like that, and you look at the team now, it's kind of in a rebuilding situation, but I think if anybody can get it done, he can. You look at what he's done since he's gotten there. He's changed it around. He's welcomed all the older guys in, and that's why I think that Gridiron Chapter Foundation was formed, because when you see people pulling you in and want you to be a part of a program, it makes you want to do even more. And I look at the people from Troy and Clarence Glenn and all those guys. They've done a great thing, because I've saw more of my ex-teammates in the last 2 or 3 years than I have seen in the previous 20-something years. Because everybody's coming back, and we love what's going on. We love the success that they've had, and we want to try to be there to help them always have that opportunity to be able to compete and get even bigger. Hey, why not reach for it and hope that we could be in some of these major bowl games one day? You never know.
And lastly, Brian, I know you're a father of 4, and you have your foundation, and you were speaking about your family earlier and your father. I'm a father of 1, about to be 2. So some advice that you learned from your father that you like to pass on to your kids and young fathers, what would it be?
Well, for me, to be honest, my dad talked to me straightforward about what was going on. So he didn't sugarcoat stuff with me. That's why I guess my radio style is what it is. He was straightforward with me, and he was honest, and I think that's the one thing you can be with your kids, because when you're honest with them, they'll be honest with you. If you want to lead by example, you want to make sure your kids understand what you're doing. And I can tell you this, though, my kids have taught me a lot, because they pay attention to everything, okay? And I can remember one time watching a movie with my daughter. She was 3 years old, my oldest daughter, Bria. She's 23 now. And we watched this movie, and the whole movie, one person said ass. And at the end of the movie, I said, what you like about that movie, baby? She said, that lady said ass. And I say, whoa. And that made me realize at that point, you have to make sure you know exactly what you're exposing your kids to, because they're going to catch what you don't. You know what I mean? So they have made me a better person, a better listener, a better person to go out there and pay attention to stuff. And my son is 28, who grew up right there in Lafayette. I was there in May. He got married. He's living in Mississippi now, and 2 more daughters. I have Willie, Bria, Maya, and Aaliyah. Those are my babies, and they keep me going.
Well, that's awesome to hear, Brian. And now my son's only 2, but I'm going to go turn the parental controls on the TV tonight when I get home.
You have to, because if it's one word, they'll remember it.
All right. Brian Mitchell, look, you've been very generous with your time. Guys, you can follow Brian on Twitter at BMitchLiveCSN and get involved on FanCom as well, as he spoke about earlier. Thanks for sharing the memories. Thanks for coming on the show. You know, you've always got another home down here in Lafayette, and they love you down here in Cajun country. So continued success, my friend.
Thank you, Scott. Man, I love y'all too, man. Hey, I'll be back there soon again. Hopefully I get down to another game for the year's out.
All right. We look forward to seeing you then, and I don't have to tell you, but I'll just say it anyway. You know you're going to get fed, right?
Hey, I love that.
All right. Brian Mitchell has been our guest. Thanks so much, Brian.